Good morning. How's that? Is that better? Very unprepared for this. Even though I've been sitting here for about an hour working, I had my mic unplugged. Anyway, how's it going? It's the 4th of July week. We got a big question to answer today. All right, let's do shout outs. Good morning from Gastonade, Missouri. I don't think I've ever been there. Where's that? I was actually born in Kansas City, Missouri. Gasconade. I don't know where that one is. Oh, we got Essex, England in the house. I was just in time within 3 seconds. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Central Texas. All right, all right. Got another Texas person in the house. Do y'all know about these coffee mugs? This is like the only legitimate one that's pretty decent. This is the Rocktopus coffee mug. And then on the back here, it says binge, listen, and fill your soul with happiness. Hopefully there's a link below the video if you want to get one. All right. Fayetteville, Arkansas. All right. I lived in Fort Smith. Actually, I lived in Van Buren for about 3 months, right after I got out of the Navy. Look at this. Bentonville. Germany. Whoa. Michigan, PA line. Fidelity Sound. Very nice. Very nice. I saw your comment yesterday on my poll. There we go. That's better. Detroit. Very nice. What's up, big nerd? You great, brother? Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Brady Music, for all that you do by commenting on the channel. I really appreciate it. Howdy, Rob. Very regular on the channel. Rob, it's good to see you again. Cincinnati, Ohio. Donegal, Ireland? What? Thank you so much. I love seeing folks from not the U.S. Makes me happy. Lost of UK in the house. Bristol wood burners. Very nice. The future of hi-fi is Ganfet all the way. Yeah, I was talking more about, we'll get into it here in a bit. I've heard, I don't think I've ever had one of those amplifiers in. Weem Ultra got pushed back, so I'm hoping there is still hope you receive a copy to review. August 10th release date now. I'm gonna have to ping them. Frankly, if I don't get one, I think I'm gonna grow resentment. Good morning from Cleveland, Ohio. All right, Canada in the house. Okanagan Valley. We got Montevallo, Alabama, just south of Birmingham. Oh, Kevin. What's up, my brother? Kevin's been part of the channel since the very beginning. Royal Tunbridge Wells, UK. Very nice. All right, Gasconade is 3 miles upriver from Herman. I don't know where Herman is either. Watching in Cyprus. Very nice. Plymouth. Listen, we got a lot of people from England here. Very nice. Houston, Texas. Randy, good to see. Hey, Matt, how you doing? What's your go-to firework? I haven't lit off fireworks in a long time. Inch and a halfers. That's what we used to call them. We'd have to drive to Kansas to get them though, because they were illegal in Nebraska. Romania, Bucharest. Very nice. Philly in the house. Very nice. V3 Monos arrived yesterday. If I'm honest, I hope this isn't the future of hi-fi. Ooh, doesn't sound good. We got Sweden. Look at that cheeseburger. That looks delicious. Yorkshire, UK. Manchester, England. Good gravy. We have anybody here from the U.S.? North Carolina, Lexington, Kentucky, Los Angeles, Denmark. Brian Romska, another long-time supporter of the channel. I just bought the Altima Pro. Ooh, is that a new amplifier from Nissan? Just kidding. I know what you're probably saying. Aima. Serbia. Greenville, South Carolina. Good gravy. Another Essex. All right, we're going to have to get to it. Oh, look at this. We have a cheap Audioman patron celebrity in the house. Sir Walter. That's not right, is it? Exotic Tampa, Florida. Sydney, Australia. Oh, yeah, there's my brother. This guy looks like my twin. Actually, he looks like my better looking twin. Show some love. Hit the like button. Thank you. Richmond. Andy from England. All right, we're going to have to... Sorry, I'm getting text messages right now, too. Matt, stop texting me. Bedford. HEB, baby. All right. We're going to have to stop unless there's a super chat. Okay. So, and I hate to be glib about this, but super chats will obviously get priority for questions and things like that. And I'm going to read some responses from y'all too here. So the question is this: what is the future of hi-fi? And I'm not necessarily talking about, I guess I am kind of talking about technology. So let's just do a for instance here, like room correction or, light room correction. So I know on the Weem Ultra, we have some room correction. I know on things like the Buchard, their integrated amp, they have a bit of room correction there as well. Then we have, so that's like number one. And then we have second things like DACs, because, DACs technology changes with chips and things like that. Although I still think a decent DAC from 5 years ago is still good. But, I mean, we're starting to get like ridiculous levels of dynamic range, ridiculously low noise floors. And at a certain point, it just becomes like, okay, well, all right, I have 135 dB of dynamic range. Like, I mean, what is a vinyl record? It's not that. So maybe it is. Then we have like AI, no doubt. So that's another thing is like, what does that mean? How does that play into like, because there's a great video recently from, I can't remember his name. He's got a huge music channel, but he was basically talking about like how bad music has gotten because of things like AI and because of technology. And like so many things can be fixed in recording and mastering. And so I think his take on it was Beto. What is his name? You know him. You know who I'm talking about. Anyway, he was basically talking about how musicians, artists have gotten Rick Beato. That's it. No, new record day. Look at this. We have Hi-Fi royalty in the house. Rick Beato. Yeah, so basically the takeaway was this, that musicians don't really practice as much like as they did anymore. And it's not necessarily that there's no good musicians out there. It's that the majority of them live in relative obscurity outside of pop music. And that pop music has gotten bad. And then he went into things about just like Google Trends as far as searches on like video games and music and things like that have all dropped off significantly. But social media has gone up, exponentially too. So we have crappy music coming out recently, right? But so the reason why I'm asking this is because I have been doing a ton of what I would consider to be older school reviews. So I'm talking about integrated amplifiers with no real digital stuff on them. Completely, maybe they don't even have a phono preamp. And I don't know where I'm leaning, because on one side, I love things like the Advanced Paris A10 Classic, which has a fair amount of tech in it. It has HDMI. It has a really good DAC in it. It's an older DAC, but it still works. I was about to clear them. So that's kind of where I'm going with this, because we have powered speakers, and I don't think powered speakers or active speakers have done what people thought they were going to do. Because, an active speaker or powered speaker is kind of like one step removed from something like a sound bar, right? Which sound bar has stuff. I know home theater is on the decline too. Even sound bars are kind of on the decline. So I wanted to get your inputs, because personally, I feel like there's going to be kind of the bulk of the business is going to be in dumb products that aren't really super smart when it comes to room correction, DACs and things like that, streamers. We have cool stuff coming through, but I think like the basis of these systems, I hope, are going to be dumb stuff that's very similar to what we had 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s. All right, so we got a lot of comments here. Lots of gems on Bandcamp. Perfect example. Yes, Chris, absolutely. But they're obscure, right? Like, for the most part, like, it is not, like, if you look at the music from the 90s, like when grunge hit and things like that, there's kind of like a, I don't know, renaissance of rock and roll, simple rock and roll, good music. And now everything's like overproduced, auto-tuned, and all that stuff. Anyway, let's see what else we have. Hi-Fi with great dynamic range to play modern compressed music? ? Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like, if you have a whole bunch of dynamic range, but your recording is not up to snuff, then it's kind of like, what's the point? What else do we have here? It's so easy to create mediocre music these days. Anyone with a laptop can do it. Yeah. The thing that I agree, I appreciate, okay, Chris Hamilton's saying wrong. I don't know if you're answering to me. Oh, you got to dig to find the good stuff. Yeah. I don't know if you're telling me I'm wrong or what. I'm just saying that the majority of people, the majority of the music out there, recent music, isn't all that great. So what is your take? Do you think everything is going to go to basically an integrated streamer, integrated type of amplifier with a DAC in it? Or do you think there's going to be a lot of traditional type components? Oh, Chris Hamilton says no. I was saying that to Mark. Streaming with volume correction hopefully ends the loudness wars. Yeah. It's interesting because, I take some of my favorite bands, for example, that are coming out with new material. So like Metallica. I think Korn's coming out with a new record here pretty soon. I still think that the majority of that is going to be listened to what I would consider to be a modest system, if not something like a Sonos or an Amazon, things like that. So the need for these bands to record really well recorded music is reduced. I think the new Metallica stuff is recorded really well, but the popular music still probably isn't going to be recorded, to the point of, I don't know, like audiophile style music. But on the flip side of that, is the loudness wars really a thing anymore, since everything is streaming, on Spotify, Tidal, Amazon Music, and things like that. One box with choice of speakers. All right. Project is doing something similar to that. They have a system in a box, and I think it's done fairly well for them. If more people want to get into hi-fi, active speakers are the way to get a wider audience. I would agree with that. That makes sense to me, intellectually. But I've been doing this for 3 years. And I know that when I do a review of a powered speaker or an active speaker, like my audience isn't interested in it. So that if I do a video on a powered speaker, it'll get 60%, maybe 70% if I package it correctly of the views that a amplifier, speaker, or a DAC video will do. So the interest in my audience, and I'm not saying that, that is not representative of the populace out there, but if it is doing well, if those speakers are selling really, really well, then I'm not seeing people watching it on my channel. And I have seen the big creators in, the audio space. It doesn't really move the needle on their channels either, because I just don't think people are as interested in active speakers. I know my audience is not as interested in powered speakers. So it makes sense to me, but I don't see the data supporting that. And maybe the people that are buying active speakers aren't really watching YouTube. I don't know, maybe not. I think if they were doing really, really well, then they would be making more of them. I know Kef makes quite a few powered speakers, but if you look at, there was a slew of products that all came out about the same time, and they all looked pretty much identical. So I think it was a Lenbrook company. I can't remember PSB. So PSB came out with a little powered bookshelf speaker. U-Turn came out, and U-Turns actually sounded really good. I had a Class AB amplifier in it. Little powered speakers. So these are 4-inch powered speakers. So they all looked very similar, which is always kind of a red flag for me. When a bunch of companies come out with a similar looking product, it's okay. Fluence has some fairly affordable powered speakers, like big ones, but they're not good. They're not good at all. And I haven't seen a lot more of them coming out. All right, so here we go. This is a good example. Atom Audio. So again, we're kind of crossing genres here. We're crossing lines because the Atom Audio is really a professional studio monitor type of a product. And there is some of that crossing over. But Wesley Fletcher, $20. I think the audiophile is aging out. Yeah, and I'm concerned about this too. Most people under 30 are listening on their phones. Absolutely agree with that. And that's why I think it's important to have this conversation, because we need to bring in more audiophiles. And I don't think talking about $1,000 or $2,000 amplifiers is the way to do that. That's kind of one of the things I try to pride myself on, is bringing new people into the hobby. And, kids for the most part don't have a ton of money. So they need options for super low. Actually, I just did a video on a system under $250. Good system. Actually sounds pretty decent. Sounds a heck of a lot better than a Sonos or the Amazon thing that I'm not going to say the name because otherwise she'll talk to me. So we have this crossover with pro audio stuff that can sound good, but it's not really marketed to the audiophile. And our hobby is smaller than we think it is. I'm willing to bet if we looked at actual numbers of sales, pro audio stuff that's powered is probably outsells the audiophile stuff. So we got another super chat. Steve Zeidman, $9.99. Thank you. 2 channel separates for me, but I'm old. I love playing with the sound too much. So that's another thing, is I do too. And I love the process of it. Powered speakers are simple and easy. I get that. But again, I don't know if they were doing gangbusters, if they were doing crazy. I mean, we do have Klipsch. So the Klipsch has the 5s. I don't know if they have the 5s anymore. They have the 7s and the 9s. I don't know how they've done as far as sales-wise. I don't know if they outsell the passive speakers. That would be an interesting conversation to have. I don't know if people would readily, let me know like what their sales are. ELAC has a small powered speaker. I think if it was doing gangbusters, that's all we would see coming out. Now, granted, we haven't seen a lot coming out anyway, but I've also gotten to know the brands from Fidelity Imports, from Playback Distribution, which are all traditional products. There's not a lot of, they do have DACs and things like that, but there's not a ton. And if anything, there's a bit of a throwback to physical media, even cassettes, which is crazy to me. I actually think there's going to be more sales in physical media, even cassette tapes, than there are in some of this more modern stuff. And I was thinking about this. I think that some of the stuff that we had growing up is going to make a comeback. We've seen it with vinyl, and we've seen a lot of people outside of like our hardcore hobby getting into vinyl. When you can go to Walmart or Target and pick up a vinyl record and have choice between 3 or 4 different turntables, that's pretty incredible, considering that you can't get an integrated amplifier at Walmart or Target. You used to be able to, but you can get a record player. It's not going to be a great one, but I think you can get an Audio Technica at Walmart. Almost positive. I know you can get an Audio Technica at Walmart. There we go. Sound and deliver. Agree. Studio monitor type setups probably do outsell traditional hi-fi. There's another comment about you can make music on a laptop. And I think that's actually good, because I could go to Best Buy, Walmart, or Target right now and buy enough stuff to be able to create my own radio station, like a podcast or whatever it is. Today, anybody could. So the barrier to entry of making music, of making content online, has gone down so much. And with that, I'm hoping that there's going to be people that are legitimately talented to be able to, enter into making music or making content online. And there will be more of them, but, if there's more of them, people that are truly talented are actually going to rise to the top, and who would otherwise need some type of record contract, or, get a break on radio, or get a break in TV, or whatever it is, like that's gone. You don't have to worry about that anymore, because you can just put stuff up on YouTube or whatever, or on Bandcamp, and then if you're good and you can market your stuff, then you'll be successful. Anyway. Mark Menton, I much prefer the audio equipment from the 70s, which actually allows you to hear and tune the nuances of real music of the era instead of what passes for music today. Yeah, I kind of like that too. Oh, John Brender, $9.99. Thank you. Affordable, good sounding gear is the future of hi-fi. I kind of agree. Also depends on finding good music. Tons of great new brands, but you have to dig. Bandcamp. Oh, tons of great new bands. I would also say there's tons of great new brands, but you have to dig. Bandcamp is a good source. This leads me into another point. Let me get a drink of coffee here. Octopus. I'm going to try to sell some coffee mugs today. Anyway, leads me to another point. Is the traditional hi-fi companies. So let's just talk Marantz, Denon, B&W. So those are Sound United brands. And I don't think they're doing great. And then you have the Klipsch Group, which is owned by Vox, which is Onkyo, Pioneer, Klipsch, amongst others. Yamo. So you have those brands. And like I don't think they're doing very well. But the companies that are doing well, like Schkitt, like Emotiva, like Gishelli Labs, and then you have companies that are independents, like some of the stuff I've been talking about, like Advanced Paris, I think is absolutely going to blow up. Like I know that they couldn't keep stuff in stock, which is not inexpensive, but I would call it like luxury audio at a bit of a more affordable price. You know, $2,500 for an integrated amplifier that does everything and looks like it looks. $2,000 for a brilliant power amp that looks like it looks. So I think the traditional hi-fi companies that we grew up with and loved are being replaced with these independent companies. You will own nothing and be happy. $2. I think you may be talking about music as far as physical media. Do you use room correction? I do for home theater, Dwayne. So I run Dirac, and then depending upon which speakers I have, I just leave it for movies. But I could listen to music, and like I have a Pioneer, which has been discontinued, which is another thing. It's like these new home theater receivers that have a lot of tech in them already, they get discontinued and obsoleted so quickly. So the Pioneer that I have, which can sound good for music, is basically obsolete at this point. So I'm thinking, like personally for me, if I was building out like my dream system, what I would do is I would buy separates, maybe an integrated DAC and streamer or something like that. But I'd buy separates because I like the journey. I like to kind of build out my own system. So I'd have a separate amplifier or an integrated amplifier, and then I'd have a separate DAC and a separate streamer. So those three. And if I was going to do room correction, personally for me, I would hope that it could be in a part of the streamer like the Weem Ultra is going to be, so that if I ever need to switch that out, I can switch that out without having to change my entire system. Or a separate box. Now I know this exists in Mini DSP. I know you can get Dirac in Mini DSP, but that is like for power users, in my opinion. I don't think the majority. I'm not going to spend time trying to figure out Dirac and a Mini DSP and connect it to. I think it needs to be simpler, more simple solution. And that's what I wish it would be easier to do some type of room correction in a separate box. That's easy. And I think we're going to start seeing that with Weem. But, room correction really fixes a little bit of stuff on the bottom end and maybe some time alignment stuff, again, with probably subwoofers. So room correction, maybe a bit of an EQ here and there for regular speakers, but we can fundamentally do that in something like the Weem. It's going to be very interesting I'm going to get a Weem Ultra, either if I have to buy it or not, but it's going to be interesting to see kind of an A-B comparison between what is room correction sound like and what it doesn't sound like, especially with just two speakers. Is Chi-Fi the future? I think it's part of the future because I think Chi-Fi is going to bring more people into the hobby. The problem I have with Chi-Fi is once you get to a certain level, and I think it starts to happen around the Denafreps level. So I think around $750 to $1,000. Like once you start to get to that level, I'm less inclined to recommend Chinese companies. Denafreps is a little bit different because they do have U.S. support and they have, some history there. But there's some newer companies that, are fairly expensive pieces of equipment. And I think when you compare them to similar or like pieces of equipment, yes, there's still a great value there. I think Chi-Fi is the future only for getting more people into the hobby. So that's why I think Chi-Fi is the future. But I think that stops at a certain price point, because once you get up to a certain price point, if I'm making the decision with my money, I'm not buying $1,000 Chi-Fi amp. Now, I do have patrons that have a great setup. Todd T, he loves Denafrips, and I think Denafrips again is a bit of an outlier. But there is a new company out there. The name escapes me right now. I can't remember exactly who it is, but I think it's Live, Laiv. And I know John Darko's been talking about him, and some other folks have been talking about him. So, like, I think on paper that sounds great, but if you don't have US support, if you don't have a place to get stuff fixed, if you don't have the customer support, I think is key. And if Chinese companies, if the higher end Chinese companies can get some type of US, Canadian, stuff in the UK, stuff, in Europe, if they can get that support, like local support somehow, or through a dealer network, then I think it can work. I think it can. But then if you have a dealer, like, who is that impacting? Because a dealer is going to have a list of products, a list of brands that they deal with. So if they bring in something like a Live or Denafrips or something like that, how does that affect the other brands that may be more expensive? Anyway, Old Guy Hi-Fi, $10. Thank you, Ed. If you're not subscribed to Old Guy Hi-Fi, you need to go subscribe. Great guy, longtime patron. So Ed, the question is basically, what is the future of hi-fi? Is it within all this technology as far as room correction, powered speakers, active speakers, or is it in the traditional stuff that we grew up with, as far as, integrated amplifiers that are fairly dumb? Maybe they have a DAC in them, and then separate streamers and things like that. Personally, for me, if I was spending my money, I would spend it on a streamer with some tech in it, going into maybe an integrated amp, or going into, really, ideally for me, it would be an integrated amplifier or separate integrated amplifier with pre-outs, so I could grow with it if I wanted to, and then a power amplifier, and then speakers, and I'd have the smarts in just one of those units. Rob Hawk, $13.99 Canadian. Long past physical media now, the CDs and the LPs are safely stowed in case of a streaming catastrophe. Yeah, just in case if the EMP hits, we may lose our CD players. But anyway, I'm fully back into physical media. All right, we got a Chi-Fi. Why boycott Chi-Fi? Someone probably doesn't like the Chinese stuff. And let's just take politics out of this, because, like, come on, are we really going to have this conversation? Like, I get it. Like, people don't like the politics that go on in China, but like iPhones, televisions, computers, furniture, everything that most people probably use, car parts, there's stuff made in China, always made in China. So I think, if you don't want to buy Chinese stuff, that's fine. I still think, though, that majority of people that are going to get into the hobby are going to do it at a low barrier of entry financially. So I think Chi-Fi is a very important part of our hobby, because if we can't get more people into the hobby, somebody else mentioned it earlier, we're not spring chickens here. Most of us have some gray in our beard, right? And there's going to be a certain point in time where you get to 65, 70 years old, you're probably not going to buy any more hi-fi equipment. So we need to get newer people into the hobby. And it's going to be at a low barrier of entry. It's just going to be financially. And Chi-Fi is going to play a major role. I can put together a system for $250 that sounds good. Sounds better than most stuff out there. Dwayne, thanks for the answer commentary. Thank you, Dwayne, for the $5. I really appreciate that. Here's to a great cup of Joe. I appreciate it. I think I'm going to start doing like fancy coffee, like pour overs and stuff. I'm getting sick of like Folgers. I just dribbled a little bit of coffee on my keyboard. Yay. All right. All right, we got Buckeye amps are awesome. Actually, I just got in some Outlaw stuff. Outlaw, I think, is a cool company to talk about too, because fundamentally their stuff hasn't changed. And I always think that's a great litmus test for a company. If your products stay the same, if there's long-term stability within a product, so if a product's made for a long time, I think that's a testament to how good that product is. So that it's just not like, okay, we have a new, and I love Faziati, but man, it's like, just pump the brakes and make one thing and make it good and stick with it. My room correction equipment consists of my ears. I love this. Bass treble controls on the preamp, loudness button. Love it. Physical or virtual signal equalization. This is applicable for all 2.1 input media. You know what's interesting is I went to the House of Sound. And if you haven't seen that video, it's a great video. So it's the Macintosh House of Sound. It's in New York, Chelsea, New York, so Manhattan. And the home theater, which was just bananas, the home theater was tuned by ear. So I think they did some type of room correction there. But at the end, all of the time alignment was done by a dude, by listening. And he would get everything dialed in, and I think he had some type of it wasn't just like me. So there's like basically kind of like a metronome. The dude tuned this, and I bet it's hundreds of thousands of dollars for this. And they bring in people. I mean, I'm talking about like they bring in celebrities to have them listen and basically do this demonstration with the home theater. And it was tuned by ear. So I think if you're good at that, that's the way to go, right? So there is, for most people, is to automate that and do it well. It's probably a lot easier. But I think you make a great point here. At the end of the day, if you've got a good ear and you're tuning it well, then it doesn't matter. And also the elephant in the room, and somebody alluded to it earlier, is different music is recorded in different ways. So you may have one track that, is heavy on the bass. It's just a simple example, heavy in the bass, right? So you have variability in recordings from recording to recording. Some stuff is going to be too spicy. Some stuff is going to be too bassy. Some stuff is going to be so recessed in the mid-range you can't hear it. So even in movies, different movies are mastered better than others. So I think we can set kind of a baseline with this stuff. But it's not always going to be perfect for every situation. I ran room correction on a home theater receiver I had, and I was listening to Dolby Music. And I had to go in there and heavily... Now, once I got it dialed in, it sounded great for one record. But I had to heavily change levels and do a bit of EQ on different speakers. And as soon as a different record came on, you'd have to kind of rework that whole thing. So I don't think there's any one and done. Weems DAC isn't the best. No, I agree. It's not the best. But you also have to understand that what are you getting in the Weem that you're not getting? I would say that Weems DAC was probably as good. Like when the Blue Sound Node first came out, it didn't have a great DAC in it. It got torched on ASR. The DAC performance did. So you have to understand, you can get good software, you can get cheap product, or great sounds, but you can only choose two of those, right? So, but I think they've gotten better. Trust me, if someone's gonna make a great product, it's Weem. It's happening already. They're crushing it. They are absolutely crushing it. And they're not that old. As far as the first Weem Mini coming out, that was not that long ago. That all came out, within my channel being around. My channel's not even 4 years old yet. So you have a company that has just absolutely kicked in the door and said, here I am. And that's Weem. So I think they're very, 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 very aggressive with what they're doing. Malaysia and Vietnam are growing fast. Malaysia is great, man. I had such a great time. All right, do we have any super chats? Let me check here. All right. Randy, what's your go-to movie for showing off surround sound? I'm sad to say I haven't watched a ton of movies, and the movies that I have been watching, simply because of time, have been off of which I have to do a video on this. They have been on a Klipsch soundbar that has wireless surrounds. And ironically, like, it's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. And the reason why I do that is because I have limited time, especially during the summer, because the kids are home. I can get nothing done. I'm freaking out. I've been on multiple trips, and like the channel's not performing well. Summers are usually a little bit slower anyway for views. But when I get a chance to watch a movie, and I love watching movies, the upstairs theater room that I kind of have has been moved around and changed around. So basically I'd have to go up there and put up all the new, speakers are already up there, but I'd have to test them because I've changed a bunch of amps out. So I got to go back there and make sure, and for whatever reason, I couldn't get the center channel to work last time. But if I do that, that's probably an hour to 2 hour commitment just to get things like working correctly. And we've had some folks over here like organizing the house and stuff. So things have gotten unplugged. So in order to make that work, and I have a really nice Emotivo, one of their top end surround processors, which is like a sports car, right? So it's not you push the button and everything sounds great. So there's a lot of tweaking involved. The movie that I used to watch just to kind of test and evaluate equipment was the last Star Wars movie, the one with the Emperor in it, where he comes back from the dead or whatever. Like the first 5 minutes, I would watch that quite a bit. But I think Top Gun Maverick was excellent. I think the Dune movies are absolutely excellent when it comes to testing out, evaluating a system. So yeah, that's kind of, I'm a sci-fi guy for sure, and a horror guy. I think the what's the movies? The guy from Office did them. Quiet Place. I think those are well done too. The spice must flow. That's right. The spice must flow. I need to get the second one on 4K. Think about it. Room resonances are in the time domain, while room correction is in the frequency domain. It's always better to check that automated correction manually. Steven, there you go. Yep. And I don't think most people are going to do room correction. I know that, like, that is, I always hear it in the comments, like, the room is the most important thing in your system. And, a certain extent, yeah, I'll agree with it, 100%. Am I going to do anything about my room? No. Absolutely not, because most people won't. I think, we already have a very tiny hobby to begin with, right? So then let's slice that pie up even more by doing like, let's say 10% of our hobby is interested in room correction. So I think, like, I want to make videos, and I'm not disparaging anybody that does, like Ron from New Record Days, great series on room correction. I think it's awesome. Somebody out there needs to be like sharing that information. But I'm not going to do room correction beyond what I already have, because most people won't do it. So like, if I'm evaluating a product, or I just, I want to talk about stuff, and most people aren't going to have it in a treated room. So I'm not going to treat my room. And I have carpet, I have furniture in there. So a lot of that stuff is being taken care of already. I really enjoyed the music selection that were used in Amazon Fallout video series. Nice. I guess it depends where you live. You cannot say most people can't afford anything. Maybe if you live somewhere below the poverty line. Here in Maryland, most people have good paying 6-figure jobs. Yeah, but isn't like housing off the chart expensive too. Like most people in California make great money compared to the rest of the country, but housing is stupid expensive. So I think the disposable income, is probably, and who knows what most people's disposable income is, but there probably is a much higher concentration of people that have higher disposable incomes over there. Dominic S., $5. Thank you so much. Got set of Bose 901.4 with EQ for $100. Need all rephoned. Will fix myself to use in bar. Okay, if I dig the 901 trick, might keep and enjoy it. Or should I sell flip? Ooh, yeah, it's up to you. I would fix them, listen to them. If you want them, if you like them, keep them. If you don't want them, sell them. I have no idea like what they go for in the secondary market. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of the stuff, that for the people that are watching this, most of us are gearheads, right? So that's kind of the cool thing is if you can buy stuff and get some money out of it by reselling it, then you get a chance to buy more stuff. And then maybe you want to go back and buy another pair and refoam them or fix them. Most all digital room corrections can easily be significantly improved by a well-trained listener utilizing the right tools. I think you can. What's funny is like even time alignment issues. Like, so when I've had imaging issues before, and I don't really love changing balance. Like I get it. That's what balance adjustments are for. But if I'm having imaging issues, center image issue, like I'll just go move a speaker a little bit closer or further away. And it works. Now, in some instances, you can't do that. But like physically moving a speaker is going to change timing stuff. So if something is pulling to the left, I'll move the left speaker back or I'll bring the right speaker forward to get that center image to work. So to your point, like all of this stuff can be changed in physically. So not only is like room treatment a way that people can improve, but just speaker placement is a way that people can improve and change things. Plugging ports, moving your listening position. Like my living room has I'm sure it has major bass issues. But if I just move my head forward or aft a little bit, it can drastically change things. Which means if I move the sub to a specific place, it can drastically change things. So I think that just play around with stuff. And if you do a little research and you can kind of figure out some stuff with speaker placement, like all this fancy room correction, a lot of it can be just done by moving stuff. Couch Potato Audio, $10. I love your profile picture. It looks like a Great Dane listening to headphones. Hi-Fi will always have its place in situations that sound isn't as important. I have an AIMA A07 at my desk, and it's great. For more intense listening, I have better gear. Absolutely. I've also heard a lot of stories, too, about how people will, and this is the situation I'm in with my home theater, people will buy a modest setup, and whatever that means for that person. So that's a different thing, right? So modest system for one person, maybe $1,000 system. Modest system for another person, maybe $250. And they'll also have a higher end system. But maybe that higher end system is a little bit harder to use as far as it takes longer to start listening to music, and then you have to tweak things. And I've heard people that be like, listen, I know this cheaper system doesn't sound as good as my more expensive system, but it's easier to use and I can enjoy my music more quickly. And this could be an argument for powered speakers and active speakers. We'll get back to that though. Hold that thought. So people will end up listening to their less expensive objectively inferior system more than they listen to their expensive system, simply because it's more work to listen to their expensive system, or it's more work to go into their listening room that they've made, or whatever it is. And I have that issue with my home theater upstairs. I know that if I want to watch a movie, it's going to take hours of work. And by the time I spend hours of work, especially during the summer with the kids home, I'm like, I've lost that window. If I have 2 hours of free time and I can watch a movie, it's easier just to turn it on with the sound bar than it is to go and make sure I have, number one, something didn't get, well, something's disconnected, but like make sure like the run to my surround speakers is all intact, and then testing that. And then, so anyway, I think the easiest system that sounds the best that it can is probably the system that people are going to use the most. So anyway, now with that said, like the argument for active and powered speakers is this is what we're talking about right now, because it's supposed to be more convenient. I'm not picking on, I think it was PSP. I'm not picking on PSP at all, but like this was my experience. I didn't do a video about an active wireless system that was sent to me. I don't think it was PSP. I can't remember who it was, because I couldn't get it to work. Like I could get it to work, but then there would be fallouts. Like it would, and this was a streaming system. Like, so this is a full on paper, this is going to be very convenient. This is going to work all in one. You don't have to worry about it, a bunch of different boxes. I couldn't get it to work. And so I sent it back. I was like, listen, it's not working. And I think that can be an issue with some of these powered speakers with streaming DACs and all that stuff. Anyway. So I'm flummoxed. What takes hours of work to watch a movie on any system? My system upstairs. Same as I am. If you want to come over and tune my system and make sure all the wire runs are okay, feel free. Not everybody is like me, though. So not everyone is constantly changing out speakers, amps, streamers, stuff like that, right? So my experience is way different than most people's experience. Most people, if they get a home theater system, they'll just leave it. When I get a home theater system set up, I'm changing out center speakers, front speakers. I don't really change out like side speakers and height speakers. Those stay the same. But as soon as I change some things out, or I put in a new product, or I use that home theater receiver, I'll tell you what happens. As soon as I unplug the HDMI from that processor and I lose the handshake, all bets are off. Like I've got to revamp that entire thing again, because I unplugged one HDMI cable. But when I'm changing out speakers, it can be a pain in the rear. So that's why I haven't watched movies upstairs for a while, because it's in a state of flux right now and I just don't have the time. Like, plus I'm making videos and I haven't made enough videos this summer. So like, I know most people don't know like what my life looks like, but I don't have a lot of time, and time is very precious to me. So unless I'm getting ready to do a major speaker evaluation on the home theater, like it just sits there because I don't have the time. Star Wars equals pod race. All right. What else? Did I miss any super chats? Let me make sure I got everybody. Yeah, read that one. Read that one. I got 254 people in here. Not bad for summer. I got John. Amazon Prime Days are coming up. I think July 16th, 17th. Hopefully there'll be some deals. Getting ready. Sean read my last comment. I'm not trying to argue or get political, but I think we can confidently say the economy is bad enough that most people can't afford things. It just depends. It just depends. I mean, I think if you're living paycheck to paycheck and groceries have gone up 30%, then absolutely. And if your income hasn't gone up, absolutely. But I mean, there's a lot of people that, if they lived under their means, it's going to be, with inflation, it's going to be like not as ideal, but I don't think it's fair to say like everybody's in the same boat. I think a lot of people are in the same boat, which is sad, but I don't like blanket statements. Like, yeah, maybe the economy's not great. Interest rates are up, whatever it is. But like the doom and gloom, no one's going to be able to buy a house ever again. Maybe not. Steve H, $9.99. At work, we'll catch later buying an icy for kids. The kids don't need ices, but I appreciate it. I'm going to take that money and use it on myself. But thank you, Steve H. Very kind of you. Yeah, the kids probably need an icy. Yep, I'm a set up, leave up kind of stereo guy until I get the bug to change things, like swapping my Fozzy for a Cambridge AXR 100 and Polk Signature ES20 speakers. I like the Polk, the ES stuff. I hope they come out with something new. I ate my ween with a nice Chianti. It's interesting that you said that, because just the last time I watched some movies, I didn't watch anything new. I watched Silence of the Lambs, and then I think it was Hannibal was the next one. So I watched the first two Silence of the Lambs movies. They're so good. They're really good. I didn't know this, but the guy that directed... what is his name? I'm brain dead. The guy that directed Alien. What is his name? That created Alien. And then he did Prometheus and stuff like that. Anyway, he directed Hannibal. I thought it was great. But it didn't get it was not critically acclaimed. New record, day 9.99. I have a feeling the future of music is the mini disc. It's funny you mentioned that, because I would love it if it came back. It has all the advantages of CD, but it's more portable and doesn't skip as much. Yeah. I kind of agree with you, Ron. The problem is, like, being able to record and stuff like that. No one's putting out new stuff on mini disc, but I had an idea about mini discs. Martin, late to the party, but thank you for appearing live. Buy more coffee. Thank you, Martin. Martin is a longtime patron. Great guy. Love you, Martin. Sam, as I am, $10. Retired from the too expensive AV world, but I do appreciate the current knowledge you and other audio YouTubers impart. Cheap spreads good listening, and that's what it's all about. Thank you, Sam, as I am. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. Yeah. We just need to get more people in the hobby. Because once you get into the hobby and you hear that difference, you hear that extra music, like, you're hooked, right? That's what hooked me. And I've been doing this for, I don't know, what was I, 6 or 7 when I started? So 42 years. I love the comments too. I've been an audiophile for 50 years. Yeah, I guess I've been one for 42 years. All right. Ridley Scott. That's exactly right. Ridley Scott did Hannibal, or whatever the second movie was in the Silence of the Lambs series. Oh, that was great. Thought it was awesome. Yeah, Ridley Scott. We are. Just got the AO7S as monoblocks with a Ween Pro Plus. Any ideas for a DAC upgrade or preamp? Depends on your budget. It's always an easy recommendation for me when it comes to DACs. If you don't need variable output, I would get and you have a limited budget, I would look at the Gishelli Labs J2, the AKM 4499 version. And then if you don't need USB, you don't have to pay for USB. And then upgrade the op amps as you go, or as you can afford it, to Sparkos op amps. So that whole setup, if you don't need a USB, depending upon if you get it in an aluminum case or whatever, that's less than $300. So that DAC is absolutely bananas for the price. If you need variable output, I actually think whatever I just did, the topping D53 is a pretty solid little DAC with variable output. That comes in, I think, around 250. If you can stretch it, then my personal preference is another Gishelli Labs product, the Daisy. Another great product is the Denafreps Aries 12. That comes in around $800-900. I think those are great. I think the Eversolo stuff sounds pretty good to me, but I mean, you're kind of splitting hairs between that. That's the thing about the topping D53. Like, the difference between a $250 or whatever it costs, $200 D53 and an $800 something from SMSL is like marginal at best. That's why I like the fixed output DACs, like the Daisy, like the Denafreps, like the J2. That's what I like. Preamps. You got some options. I have a Saga up here from Schkit. You can also look at stuff from... Now, this is kind of a deep cut, right? And you're going to have them build it, or you're going to build it yourself. So, stuff from Akatika. And then I think you can get a preamp. There's a great product out there, actually. It's a DAC preamp combo, depending upon how many analog inputs. It is the Emotiva XDA3. Basically, they marketed it as a DAC, but it's really, I mean, they have two analog inputs in there. One's balanced and one's single-ended. So really, it's a kind of a preamp light with a really good DAC in it, and it has HDMI. So it's a really good product that you can use for just about everything. So I think that is that might be out. If you're getting Wing Pro Pluses, though, chances are you may have a bit of a limited budget. But yeah, if you can get one Wing Pro Plus, you can do volume control on the Wing Pro Plus. Yeah, I get a J2. They're great. Great. All right. We're going to have to call this one. I got Sam as I am. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody watching today. I appreciate the conversation, all your inputs. Hopefully you're going to have some more videos out this week. Y'all have a great week. Have a great 4th of July if you are celebrating that type of thing. I love it. I love the fireworks. So have a great week. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your summer. And make sure you check in later this week for more and more videos. We got some really cool stuff coming out. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you, all of you, for helping me, watching, super chats, patrons, all of you. Appreciate it. Bye. Bye.